Let's start. Let's start the session. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, dear colleagues, wherever you are connecting from. Welcome to the BOS High Impact Services. Today, this webinar, High Impact Services webinar, and today we'll be having dedicated session on the green energy solutions. My name is Irakli Jaliashvili, connecting you from DCO regional office from Europe and Central Asia region. I hope that you will be engaging and you will be learning and getting information on the green energy solutions, and we count on your participation and engagement on this webinar. Just a small housekeeping rules for the event. This session will be recorded and shared in different communication platforms. You will be having chance to engage in the webinar after the presentations that will be delivered within the next 30 minutes. But meanwhile, please feel free to use the chat box. We have colleagues joining us from different parts of the world who will be covering the questions and facilitating the QA for this event. Again, my name is Irakli Jaliashvili. Worked 5 years on the proof of the BOS concept when it was the voluntary framework for the UN country teams, and nowadays I am supporting the UN cities and operation management teams on business operation strategy rollout and implementation in the ECA region. I think that we are all around, that we have multiple joining on this event, and we can start a brief overview about the high impact services, how it works, and how it's managed globally. Little bit about on this event. The webinar will be covering the green energy solar solutions of by the green energy team from the ITM UNDP. ITM stands for Information Technology Management, who is revisiting the guidance and funding availability for solutions for the common services through Green Energy Team 7 steps process. This webinar is the support mechanism to operation management teams and UN country teams to learn about collaboration and integration of renewable energy solutions like the solar panels, like the batteries and other hardware equipment, and also some tricks and the support mechanisms to maximize energy efficiency and reliability of our common premises and UN houses. For the today's speakers, we will be having a global lead of the green energy team, Shatison Tai. Also, we will be having a green energy engineer, Julia Schramm, who will be presenting them some slides during this webinar. And we have also Topolo and Marcella Trevino, who will be facilitating the questions chat box of this webinar. And we'll be trying our best to cover all the questions. And meanwhile, if there will be some raised questions that we won't be able to provide the detailed inputs, we will be sharing the general email address of the ITM UNDP, who will be providing the more technical solutions and also the description of the services that there will be services that are providing globally to support UN country teams to roll out the green energy solutions. Some of them may have already heard about the HICS. It stands for High Impact Common Services. That derives from the business operation strategy, where the agencies identify the high impact services that produce and maximize the cost avoidance also fosters the service quality, high service quality implementation while implementation common services, and also the collects the information on the good practices all over the world. This was possible with the rollout of the business operation platform as part of the UN reform delivery process, where 131 UN cities globally are responsible for rolling out and implementation. The 4 targets of the UN reform, operational reform, is one of the implementation of the business operation strategy. The second is activation, the LSSCs slash the common back office, CBOs, rolling out and implementation common premises, and the 4th target is the activation of global shared service centers. But for these high impact services, the contribution of the business operation platform is immense, because it is the pool, it is the basket of the common services that other country of each of the country offices are selecting, and while activating, registering the new services, they are allowing this information to widespread all over the UN system, and make the system services available for other countries. And this platform is one of the examples where we identify these high impact services, and then based on demand, we are providing some solutions that can benefit this high impact service implementation. The target of this webinar is to help the UN country teams to select these services while developing then or going through annual review of the business operation strategies. Platform is green lighting, advising with a pop-up window to visit, review, discuss with ONTs the identified high impact services that we'll be covering coming slides. And with this kind of the webinars, we are engaging the stakeholders who support UN cities to implement those services, scale up them, and explore the opportunities of generating the cost avoidance, and also the reaching the high quality service delivery. Cost and quality is the main drivers of the business operation strategy to reduce the cost and increase the service quality, but we have a different services that are only concentrated either on the cost or either on the quality. So we are targeting and capturing all the services within these 2 variables that influence the efficiency of collaboration within agency through the business operation platform. High impact common services, how it's derived, and how it is working and selecting again the business operation strategy platform, BOS platform. It is the main contributor of identifying the high common services. Again, each country is selecting the common services through the platform. We have more than 200 services implemented and stored on the BOS platform. And when they are selecting, developing opportunity analysis, and developing the cost benefit analysis, we are able to see the services that generate the maximum efficiency, maximum cost avoidance, service quality improvement, and then we are able to advise the other country offices to consider center service for cooperation. It doesn't mean that every high impact service has the effectiveness in all the country offices, but it's the huge chance that if you consider some long-term agreements, some solutions like the renewable and sustainable practices, it will benefit your operational delivery on the country level. We also are chasing the good practicing for the upscaling and labeling them as high impact services, like the fleet management solution, or the different like the sustainable solution for the disposal services, or it can be the finance related topics. And if we're learning it on the country office, if we are getting the detailed information with one country offices, we are able to share this kind of the examples and good practices with other country offices. But then we have then other type of the high impact services like just gender inclusive services and disability inclusion that has even bigger effect on our operational delivery process, and it includes, it's a bit more sophisticated, that it's influencing on the SOP review and adaptation to our daily operations. But these are the 5 ways that we are chasing high impact services and make it available to the wide audience. And you are attending one of the webinars that are fostering the HICS services for your review and consideration. Again, here you see the results and outcomes, how we are identifying those services. On the left side, you see the names of the common services that are available on the BOS platform, where the 131 countries already developed the strategies within the one system. And you see the global arrangement, that how the accommodation services are impacting over 131 country offices, and this number represents that when and if the agencies are collaborating to each other, then UN country teams globally are avoiding $95 million. And you see the other common services like management of the common premises, travel services, internet connectivity, printing services. These are the numbers that are generated by BOS platform, and these are the sources where we can shape and polish and produce and give you packages of solutions that you consider for implementation to increase your business operation strategy implementation process. And on the right side, you see the categories of the high impact services with the certain services that are already standardized, already able to give you like the solution packed a solution for rolling out for your operation management team. And if and when the OMT and UN country team decides to consider high impact service implementation, there are already some guidance available, or the technical solution. It can be mobile application, it's the document guidance that helps you to roll out. You are not alone. You have a support from the globally, from the regional offices to mainstream these services. And it's good if you, while performing annual review exercise, to review these high impact services and make sure that you will be considering those services for implementation. And about the proof of concept and of the high impact services, we have available business cases for the common services, for the recycling. It can be and other service, but here we are actually targeting the 2 ones. Is the business case for the renewable energy on the UN premises that this event will be covering. And we have also the pilot countries who are reviewing a possibility for implementation. Also, this business cases has proof of concept stage to make sure that these services can potentially find the funding, and also they identify what are the overall impact of rolling out these the business cases, and how much the impact they will be having through the implementation of these services. For example, the business case of renewable energy in UN premises include installation of the devices that will be overly learn the demand and needs of the energy of them your energy supply. But my colleagues from the UNDP will be sharing briefly information about this case. Let me allow to hand over Julia floor, who will be providing more detailed information about this high impact service. Over to you, Julia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irakli. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. So my name is Julia. I'm part of the Green Energy team of ITM. And as Irakli has introduced, the idea of this webinar is to provide a brief presentation on some of the service lines that are being offered in the BOS platform, specifically for green energy services and the different solar solution our team can provide support with. The general idea of the slides that I'm going to be presenting is to go over our methodology, the process that we apply for these solutions, the objectives and the benefits of the different service lines that we can offer, and also to briefly introduce you how to engage with our team, the process that we follow for the implementation of these green energy solutions. Just as a brief introduction, as Irakli has already mentioned, we are the Green Energy team. It's a part of the Information and Technology Management Unit of UNDP, and we are based in Copenhagen. And also for the colleagues who didn't have the opportunity to attend some of the previous webinars that we have participated, I would like to start these few slides just with a brief presentation on how what is the ITM Green Energy team's role and the smart facilities concept that we apply, and also how we have been implementing this model in the collaboration with the colleagues from DCO and the business operations strategy. If you can quickly pass the slide, yeah. So very briefly, as ITM, our vision is very much aligned with UNDP's mission, and is to create smart facilities to build local capacity and inspire a movement. The smart facilities concept, if we move to the next slide, the concept that we propose is focused on the different approaches that can be used to interconnect smart technologies and people in the search for economic and social development. So we can see here in the quadrant a summarized model that compiles the 4 main pillars that constitute what would be a smart facility. We can see the quadrant in the upper left summarizing the main solutions that our team works with to address the challenges when it comes to energy and mobility. So for example, providing solutions for renewable energy production like solar energy installation, but as well as energy storage systems and electrical vehicles. As the Green Energy team, we are mainly focused on deploying the services summarized in this quadrant, of course, with the support and the collaboration of all the other services in the other quadrants. But since the main goal of this webinar is to talk about the green energy and the solar solutions, it would be what we are going to be focusing on the next slides. Just here as a brief general introduction, I would like to present as well the different services of the different quadrants that complete the smart facilities model as well, for a more comprehensive overview of the solution. So we can see both quadrants in the right, the connectivity and the security. They summarize the solutions that are suggested to address challenges when it comes to security and connectivity. So we can see some examples here. They gather multiple kinds of ICT solutions that are designed specifically for this purpose. For example, everything related to connectivity and Internet of Things connectivity, as well as cloud-based CCTV systems for enhancing security measures at an office, for example. And to complement all these products and the solutions that our unit works with, it's basically where the smart data and Internet of Things concept comes into place. So the different devices and the different tools that we use, they're all interconnected in a way to allow us to monitor and measure the deployment of all these different products and solutions remotely. So we can as well deploy these solutions, but ensure the quality of their performance as we go along. And in the scope of the smart facility, if we can move to the next slide, specifically as per the Green Energy team, our mission is to provide country offices and different UN agencies with green energy solutions to support them in addressing some of the challenges they face when it comes to electricity supply mainly. So, for example, a very unstable energy supply from the grid, or in some locations when, for example, a few offices have diesel generators as the only supply of electricity, meaning they have to rely on a very unsustainable and sometimes very expensive form of energy production. That's when we try to play our role in addressing some of these challenges. Also, the solutions that our team propose, They try to address any possible lack of awareness when it comes to, for example, unsustainable electricity production, as well as very expensive costs for electricity. Sometimes when we pay a very high price for the grid to supply electricity to our office. And in those opportunities, we can as well propose not only economic improvements in this area, but as well as environmental improvements by suggesting a source of electricity that is more, it's usually cleaner than the one from the grid. So just as a general overview and summarizing, so we can actually start the main goal of this webinar. In the context of creating these smart facilities, the focus then of this webinar is to present, as I have said, the different solutions our team works with. We can see here the main green energy solutions that we are focused and we're going to present here today. It's namely the solar installations or solar hybrid systems that consist of solar installations customized to the specific location and the specific requirements of the UNCT or the country office that we work with, and which are the core of our green energy team. But we can also work with some other services and some other products, for example, standalone solar streetlights and home solar kits for business continuity as well. The general idea is that regardless of what is the solar solution that we work with, we follow a very well-defined process for the implementation of this solution. And here is, in the next slides, we're going to start presenting this process into detail so you can have a better idea how we approach these challenges and the solutions. All right, so before going into detail of this process, I would like to actually start by giving an overview of the process and how we apply this process to deploy these different solutions. Our process is known as the 7-step process for green energy solution. It is a well-defined 7-step process, as the name says, and it has been recognized as best practices by the UN Sustainable Development Group for solar implementation. And just to briefly explain the overview of the process and its general concept right now, and then further into this presentation, we can go over each and every step into a little bit of more detail, so you can have a better understanding how we address the different issues and how these different solutions that we propose are conceived. The 7-step process, as we can see here, has very defined steps. It's an end-to-end process in the sense that it covers every step from step 1, when we do the data collection for our solution, all the way into the implementation of the solution itself and the operation and maintenance of the solution in step 7. We start in step 1, where we rely on IoT, so Internet of Things devices, to assess the current situation of a given location, of a given office, and then build a load profile for our energy solution. Once we have a very solid foundation on the information that we need for our business case, we move then to step 2, which is when we start our solid assessment for the business case. This business case is a technical, economic, and environmental analysis that our team does to allow for a well-informed decision on the optimal solar solution to be installed in the premises. It's a document that we present to the country team, explaining the solutions that we are offering and the implication of the different scenarios that we are proposing. And once we have the green light from the office to continue with the process and with the installation of the solution, we move then to step 3, which is the procurement phase of the process. In general, our procurement process, it's a secondary bidding process that we carry on with the support of UNDP's procurement unit. In this process, a tender is held among different LTA holders, long-term agreement holders, that we work with for this purpose. And these vendors, they have then the opportunity to bid for the specific solution with a technical and financial proposal for that solution. Once we receive all these bids, the technical and the financial offer, our team performs the evaluation of these bids, defining then the winning vendor, ensuring, of course, best value for money in the solution that we're going to have implemented in the office. Once we have defined who the vendor is the successful one as per the outcome of the procurement process, we move then to step 4. And that's when this vendor goes on site to carry out a very detailed site survey. Basically here, the main goal is for them to gather any missing information they need when it comes to the specific information on the site where the solution is going to be installed. Anything that they still need to design the system to come up with the final documentations and technical design for the system. And here we also enter in step 5, which is when this vendor submits the final technical design for the system. All this documentation, the reports they have submitted in step 4 and the final technical design in step 5 is reviewed by our team, where we assess to make sure that not only the solution the vendor is proposing is complying with all the technical requirements, but also to make sure that they have exhausted all the necessary information they need to collect before actually starting the installation to avoid any unforeseen risks during the installation of the solution. In step 6, then is finally, it's all about the installation. It's finally when the vendor ships all the equipment to the site and starts the works on ground to prepare the site for the installation and to start the installation of the solution. Step 6 is finalized with the commissioning of the system. So several tests are carried out with the support from the vendor and their local partner, as well as the support from a focal point on site. And our team supports remotely in most of the cases to test the system and to officially commission the system, where we can guarantee that the system is going to be working as it was supposed to, with the different loads and the different aspects of the site. Finally, once the system is commissioned in step 6, we move then to step 7, which is the final stage of this process. It's the operation and maintenance of the installation. And it's also the longer stage of this process, because we do expect this installation to be very successful in producing the expected amount of energy throughout its lifetime, which is about 20 to 25 years. So this is more or less the overview of our 7-step process and how we proceed step by step. And then now actually I would like to go into more detail through each and every step, especially steps 1 and 2, which is the ones that we are applying for these pilot projects in collaboration with the TCO team for now. We can see here a little bit of more detailed information about step 1. As I have mentioned, the main purpose of this first step is to gather all the relevant data that we need to start designing our solar solution and start working in our business case. In order to design this optimal solar solution, what we first need to understand is the load requirements. So how much energy actually we need to provide for that specific solution, for that scenario, that office that we are working with. And this can be done in different ways. One of them, and the main one, the most reliable one, I would say, that we work with, is through the support of this IoT, this Internet of Things devices. Basically, they are these different sensors that we send to the premises, to the UN country team, for example, to be installed in the electrical network of the office. With these sensors, we can actually monitor the specific electricity consumption of the office, receiving live data and very reliable data, so we can build the energy load profile for the solution that we're going to be designing. And this allows us to establish these specific energy requirements for the project. So to know exactly how much energy we need to supply to that office to have a very successful solar solution. And we can also use this data for any other type of green energy solution that can be installed in the future, for example. So as I said, the sensors, they send live information to an online portal. You can see here a screenshot of one of the portals that we work with for one of the sensors. And the portal, regardless of the type of device that we are working with, because we do work with more than one, they can be accessible by both our team and the user. So the country team, for example, with a username and a password. So of course it is data that is protected. You need to have the rights to access the data, but once you do, it can be accessible for you to also have a good idea on the electricity being consumed by your office and to monitor that data. The sensors and this data, they can also be used for different information on energy use, not only to know the energy consumption, for example, but it can be used to know the quality and the reliability of this electricity supply. For example, it can be used to inform the office in case of power outages from the grid, so they can know better how they use the generator to cover those power cuts, how often and how frequently they use, and for how long, as well as to promote other energy efficiency measures. Once we know how much energy we are consuming, we can actually start acting on it. For example, if we realize that we are consuming more energy than what we thought throughout the day, with this data, we can actually start thinking about energy efficiency measures that can be implemented to reduce this electricity consumption. And then, of course, later to visualize the results of our actions. So step one, as we can see, has a lot about the electricity consumptions and the sensors being installed for collecting this data. We can see here in the screenshot the two main devices that we use for this purpose. So one of them are the PCMM, the power consumption measurement and monitoring device, which is the first picture we can see to the upper part of the slide. Is these three different sensors that are usually installed in the different lines of the electricity supply and are connected to the cloud, so we can monitor remotely monitor the data collected by the sensors. And we also have the grid analyzer, which is the meter that we can see below. It's more or less in a box that has a little bit of more complex data that is measured and collected by this meter. And another tool that we apply for step one on top of these different sensors to measure the electricity consumption is our in-house developed preliminary site survey application, which is basically a survey. So a set of questions that we send to the country team to be filled with all the necessary information that we need to develop our business case. We can see a screenshot, the screenshots with sections in green here in the screen, how the survey usually looks like. When it's an UNDP country office, we are able to directly use this application. And when it's not, it's also not a big problem. We have different ways to share this application with the different agencies in order to collect the information. And the information provided in this survey is very important for us to understand the on-site situation and all the relevant information for the design of the solar solutions. So for example, the price and the reliability of the grid, the available space for the installation of the solar panels, the detailed information of the existing generators, how often are they used, what is the cost being paid for the diesel by the office, and so on. So all the information basically that we need to have a better understanding of the specific situation on site. So we can take this into consideration when developing our business case. When it comes to the implementation of these steps of step one of our process, as we can see here in the dashboard, it has already been implemented in most of UNDP country offices around the world and many other UN premises as well, including UN houses and different UN agencies. So our team has a very solid experience in supporting with the installation of these devices and with monitoring this practice along the way. And the key aspects of the implementation of this service, which we have been deploying with a few UN country teams as well as part of this pilot project that we have been collaborating with DCO, covers first the definition of the specific package the UN city needs. And this would be the first step to do, because of course, knowing how many sensors and the size of the sensors that need to be sent to the country team depends on the number and size of circuits to be monitored. So it's very specific to each office and the situation and the setup of each office. Our team plays a very big role here in providing all the necessary support and communicating with the focal point on site to define and exchange this type of information so we can define the optimal package for the country team. When it comes to once that the package is defined, it's a lot about logistics. So we order the procurement of these devices, and we initiate the shipment of these devices with the vendor for the country team, all the way until these devices arrive on site. When it comes to the physical installation of the sensors, they follow the basic do it yourself principle. It's fairly simple, and it takes no more than 1 hour, for example, for a standard package to be installed. Our team has developed some internal guidelines, some step-by-step procedures on how to install these devices, and we send them along with the devices, as well as some information, some guidelines from the vendors. But then, of course, we also remain available to provide remotely support for the installation of these devices anytime that is required, or some videos also that we have developed to support. Finally, during the operation, so after the devices have been installed, when we are at the monitoring stage, our team can also provide second-tier support in case there's any need for troubleshooting of the sensors, in case one of them, for example, stops working for a specific reason. We can support the local focal point in finding out what happened and what is the solution to fix the issue that occurred. And in case still it's not possible, the vendors, they are also available to provide the necessary support, so we can make sure these devices are going to be working and serving the purposes that we want. As a conclusion for step 1, the general expected result for this step, in addition, of course, to all the data collection for our business case, which we're going to be seeing in the next slide, is also to provide the country team with a more educated, a more informed and responsible use of electricity. From the moment that we know how much energy we are consuming, we are actually in a better position ourselves to be able to act on it and to apply some measurements in case it's not really as we thought it should be, for example. It allows us, for example, to start thinking about possibilities for implementation of energy efficiency measures, as well as serving as basis for any other renewable energy projects that we want to implement. So once the sensors have been installed and they are up and running and the preliminary site survey has been filled, it means we have all the necessary information that we need to start working in the business case. So we move to the step 2 of the process. As I have mentioned, our business case is a technical, economic, and environmental analysis that our team develops and presents to the country team to allow for a well-informed decision on the solution to be acquired. So we can see here an example of a cover page of a business case that we have previously developed for a solar hybrid system. Under normal circumstances, I would say we present this document with 1 or 2 different scenarios, so different options to present to the country team in order for them to make a decision on which solution they want to have installed in their premises. These options, they can vary, for example, in terms of the required investment, the size and the components that we are proposing. So for example, including a storage system in the form of a battery or not. And we can provide all the necessary support and the information to define and to support the country team in defining what is the best option that will address the needs and the expectations of the country team. The assessment that our team performs to develop this business case is based on software simulations for design and optimization of the system, as well as some in-house developed tools, especially to estimate the total cost of the installation, the return of investment, and the expected CO2 emissions reduction that are going to be resulting from the solution. So we can see here also in the screen a few screenshots that we get as a result from our simulation on the different softwares that we use for modeling this system. Once we have then the green light from the country team to move on with the project, let's say the green light would mean that the country team has understood what is the solution that we are proposing, and more importantly, has agreed with the solution and has the necessary funding to implement such solution. And this means then that we can start already our step 3, which is the procurement phase of this process, to start developing what is necessary and the mechanisms to put in place to start engaging the vendors for the implementation of this solution. Step 3 is done then in collaboration with the UNDP Procurement Service Unit, PSU, who holds these long-term agreements with the different vendors that have international reputation and have gone through a procurement process themselves to be able to be collaborating with us for that purposes. As I mentioned before, then it's a secondary bidding process, which we evaluate all offers received to ensure not only best value for money, but also the transparency throughout the process. So we perform both the financial and the technical evaluation in this process to ensure that we are going to reach the optimal results in our evaluation process. One aspect that it's very briefly that I would like to mention about our procurement process is that to ensure the quality of the installation and to guarantee that along with this installation, this is also going to be serving for local capacity building. All of these vendors, although they are international companies, they are required, among other things, to have a local partner. So a local company that's going to be able to go on site when needed, that's going to be based in the country where the installation is being performed, ensuring this is going to serve as well for the development of local capacity within the country, and ensuring that we're going to have a local company in country to attend any needs during the installation of the solution, but more importantly, during the operation and maintenance of the solution. Then finally, once we finished our step 3, we finished the procurement stage, we have defined who is the vendor that we're going to be working with for that specific installation. We move to step 4, and it's when we ask this vendor to go on site to perform a detailed site survey. Here is when they collect any missing information they still need for designing the final system, for confirming all the information that we have exchanged with them during the procurement process as well. After this visit, they are required to submit a report to our team, following the guidelines that we have provided them on the minimum information to be assessed. And our team analyzes as well this report to make sure that everything is in place and there's nothing, no red flags, let's say, that should be raised either to the vendor or to the country team to be addressed before we actually start shipping the equipment to the site. Yes, step 5, then it's our technical design, is when the vendor prepares this final technical design of the system, which is cross-checked by our team to ensure compliance with all the requirements. We ask here also for the vendors to submit endorsement letters, so letters from the manufacturers of the main components to ensure the compatibility of the technologies used and ensure that the system is going to work as it was originally designed to. Once the system has been approved in step 5, then we can move to step 6, which is the actual installation of the project. Here, the vendor is required to collaborate with our team through a project plan, covering all main activities and milestones of the installation. So we can also use this document as a project management tool, cross-checking the development of the installation and making sure things go smoothly according to the plan. Once the system is installed and an user acceptance test is performed and accepted, it's time then for the vendor to provide training to people on the ground. So this training is also a requirement that we ask these vendors to provide during the installation of the system. It's mainly for basic maintenance and key aspects of the system, to ensure as well that along with these solutions, we are promoting local capacity building for the country team as well. Step 6 is then concluded with the official commissioning of the system and the training. And we would like to highlight that communication efforts are very important, of course, throughout the entire process, but especially during the installation of the solution. So here, all sorts of communication materials can be developed during this step. And the reason why this is important is because in the end, we all know that the main goal of the solar installations is not only to provide green energy and solar solution to different locations, But to fulfill our smart facility vision, we also hope that these projects can serve as showcases and inspire a movement along with the country team and the local community as well. Finally, when step 6 is finalized, we reach step 7, which is the operation and maintenance of the system. And it's the final step of this process. It's very important for the solar installation, and the key aspect of this operation and maintenance process is that it's required to be provided by the vendor for the first 3 years of operation of the system. So it's already included in the agreement and the contract that we sign with the vendor, that they're going to be the ones providing the operation and maintenance service for the first 3 years of the operation of the system. In addition to that, our team also provides lifetime long monitoring for the systems through an online portal. And we also develop biannual reports sharing the results and the key indicators of the system's performance over the year with the country team as well. So that was a very brief, quick overview of our 7-step process and the key points that we take into consideration to ensure for a very successful and a high quality green energy solution. Before closing this webinar, we would just like to briefly present as well the main details and objectives of a service line that covers green energy missions for energy assessment and trainings, which is also one of the practice notes that Luis Diego has shared here in the chat. And this practice is proposed alongside the solar solutions also to strengthen local capacity of UN country teams to implement sustainable energy solutions as well. So the green energy assessment consists of an energy audit that is performed by a team of engineers from the green energy team to support the country teams in achieving optimal levels of power consumption. This exercise can be used as well to collect all the relevant data to design the solar installation for the premises in step 1, if that's the case, if that's preferred by the country office as well, it's a possibility. In addition, the green energy training, it's a training that we offer to country teams to cover this 7-step process, but into a lot of more detail in what constitutes each one of the 7 steps, how they can be implemented, and so on and so forth. So it takes a very hands-on approach on all the steps, and it's very much focused on the tools, the software, and the equipment that we use, as well as the best practices to design and implement a solar system. So very briefly, just to present into more detail, what is this energy assessment missions that we propose, the energy audit mission. They are performed with the goal to understand, to support the country team in understanding power consumption practices in the office, and then to propose any kind of recommendations that we can see in terms of energy efficiency and electricity consumption for the office. So among different tasks that are carried out in this assessment, it's an engineer that goes on site and it's going to be responsible for example, the installation or the review of a previously done installation of these energy meters, so the IoT sensors that we have presented in step 1. It can also be responsible for reviewing the electrical system and the single line diagrams in place for the office, and analyzing consumption patterns of electricity appliances. So for example, how our conditioners are used in the premises, or lights, how they are used, if they are turned on and off, and so on and so forth. So we can also collect any possibilities for energy efficiency measures and implementation, supporting the country office in reducing its electricity consumption. The main findings of these exercises after the audit, they are presenting in the form of an energy audit report, where we present to the country team, covering all the specific information that we have collected, the results of our assessment, and recommendations from our side. When it comes to the green energy training, it's a training package that we have built that consists of an average 6 sessions that cover mainly the topics of creating smart UN facilities and the 7-step best practices for green energy solutions. So how we develop our process when we have, for example, to work in a new business case, what are the things that we take into consideration, and specifically what are the main things to carry out and to consider for each and every step of the solution. The recommended minimum duration of the training is for 3 full working days, so we can accommodate these 6 sessions, but the duration and the content of the training can, of course, be tailored to fit the needs of the country team and the expectations as well. So, for example, in case it's not ideal to have a training for a whole day, this training can be carried out for more extended periods, for example, during the mornings or during the afternoons, and so on and so forth. We recommend the training to be carried out for a minimum of 8 participants and a maximum of 15, give or take. Ideally, 2 instructors from the team are required for 10 and above participants. And at the end of the training course, an official certificate of attendance is provided to everyone who has participated, along with a training report as well. So, given that we are very short on time, I'm going to share the link of this video here. We would like just to show you an example of one of our successful installations in the UN House in Namibia. So as soon as possible, I can share with you the link so you can have a better idea as well what an installed smart facility can look like. And finally, on behalf of the Green Energy team, we would like to thank you for being present here today. We remain, of course, available to arrange a kickoff meeting for future engagement in case you're interested in one of the solutions that we have presented. You can see here in the slide our emails for contact, but I can also give the word back to Irakli and Luis Diego for the remaining slides. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julia, for interesting presentation and all the materials Luis Diego already shared in the chat box. Great to see that Windhoek had such great premises. I've never seen it on the bird view, and I hope that the other countries will be replicating the similar this initiative. Regarding the rollout and implementation of the support, you have multiple sources to get in touch with the owner of the common service package. UNDP is online to support you. Also can request additional sessions with the operation management team, and we'll be making sure that you have both paperwork documentation and also the lessons learned from other countries.
Can you hear me, Irakli?
Yes.
There's a comment that if you can speak up a little, the voice is a bit faint.
Can you hear me?
Yes, better.
Okay, thank you. So that's we will be doing our best to support. You have a contact details of ours and also the UNDP. So we'll be making available all the materials available for the operation management team. Using this chance, I want to introduce Luis Diego Cope. Sorry, I didn't introduce him. He is the father of the high impact common service initiatives. And he owns all the information, all the contact details of these high impact services. And let me pass floor to Luis Diego, who will be covering the questions in the chat box. Luis Diego, over to you.
Thank you, Irakli. I don't think I am the father. I think the father, the mothers, and the aunts and uncles are everybody that's on the ground implementing the services. We're happy to support with any resources and to be able to kind of maximize these efficiencies amongst the entities. I know we're running out of time, so I want to make the most out of the experts that are here and give the opportunity to raise your hand if you want to ask a question directly. You may do so now, so please go ahead and raise your hand. There are a couple of questions that were already addressed, but if nobody raises the hand, we can kind of address them and ask Julia and the team if they want to address them further. But I see Hussein has raised his hand. So Hussein, I'm handing the floor over to you. And also, by the way, I put the feedback link in the chat. So if you can take a minute to give us your feedback, what you thought of this webinar, and see how we can continue to support you and improve the resources that we make available. So Hussein, over to you.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, Luis, nice to see you again.
Likewise.
I saw you on the training for disposing of assets. So I just want to first of all say hi to the team on UNDP. Like we've been in contact before on ASQA. Say hi to Julia and I think Armand, but I joined kind of late, so I don't know if he's on here or not.
I don't think Armand is here, but Tupolo and
Yeah.
Marcela are here as well, and so is Shatiso.
Yeah, I know. So I just want to say thank you for your efforts. We do have a project going on with UNDP, and the resources, that's what I want to ask, but it was already addressed. So I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you. That's it. Okay, thank you, Luis.
Great, most welcome, Hussein.
Yeah.
So there was one question that I think it's addressed to the boss, Irakli, that was asking about the greenness of bosses. And it's asking, do we have a ranking of the greenness of boss country teams?
Thank you. It's an interesting question. Unfortunately, we don't have such kind of indicators. As of now, we are capturing the country offices who have the waste management separation projects, who have a greening projects and green initiatives, but we don't have such green labels for the bosses and operation management teams, but we may in future consider it, but not as of now.
Yeah, and we are working also with UNDP and UNEP to be able to create more of a joint green approach for premises. So one that includes waste, you know, kind of reducing the carbon footprint in other ways, practices from procurement and so forth, including the solar energy solutions as well, that we hopefully will have some news and some other resources for you shortly. If there is any other question in the chat box, Marcela or Topolo, let me know. There was one question about leasing the different solar panels, if that has been done. And I think you addressed it in the chat, but if Julia or anybody from the ITM team wants to address it, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Luis. I believe Marcela has answered in the chat, but if there are any further questions or follow-up questions to the answer, we're more than happy to provide any clarifications.
Okay, I don't see that, but I'm seeing a couple of other questions coming in. One of them is saying that FAO communicated and requested for home solar kits about 3 months back, but they haven't received a response yet. So
I think maybe on this one, then we can, could you please forward the request to ITM Green Energy Team's email, then we can look into it.
Sure, perfect. So we'll be putting the contact email for the ITM team in the chat box. And Jeanette, we can follow up on that and see how we can get those home solar kits to you. There is another question from Victor asking if there are any plans to incentivize staff to move to green mobility by offering free charging of EVs.
I'm not quite sure we are let's say, in the best position to answer the question. I believe it would be up to each agency in each country team to see how the incentives could be put in place to address this issue and promote these solutions as well, definitely.
Perfect, thank you, Julia. If there are any final remarks from your end, I know we're coming to an end. I don't see any other questions in the chat.
Just to say,
yes.
for the EVs, like Julia said, you know, I think it's on its pay agency, as it were. But I should say, for UNDP in particular, they've launched an EV fund, which they put something on the table, and then there's top up from the country offices. But this is specific to UNDP. I'm not quite aware yet of other agencies, the approach to this. But maybe from the BOS side, I don't know whether there is anything you can do as BOS for inter-agency purposes.
Thank you, Shati. So I also haven't heard anything from our end. We're also bringing it up to our team and see what is possible or what ideas come to mind as well. Since we are at time, I would like to ask directly, I think in the next slide, we have a couple of webinars coming up in August, and we'll also have some webinars coming up after that as well. We have this webinar again on Thursday for a different time zone. Welcome to join or share with other colleagues, as well as webinars on disability inclusion. And we'll share the webinars in September shortly as well. Thank you so much to the ITM team. Thank you, Irakli, also for chairing and for facilitating the webinar. And we're happy to stay in touch. We'll follow up with an email with the recording and the presentation slides, and hope to continue to support your teams. Thank you so much, and everybody have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Stay safe. Thank you, Luis Diego. Thank you, Julie, and Shati.